How are you?
Hey, Jason, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. You know, this is episode 6 already.
Yes.
It was like we just
How
came
is-
up with this idea.
We did. 6 weeks ago now. 6 weeks ago now.
Apparently 6 weeks ago. No.
Yeah.
We were in pre-production for so many months before we ever would dare to go live.
Yeah, absolutely.
Rose and Hooligans talk show. We're so pleased to have you with us. My name is Jason, and this is Holy. Heyo.
Heyo.
Each episode, we will interview someone talented and interesting from the Heroes and Hooligans community and the world of art. Today we have M. M is an artist, a crafter, a writer, a gardener. We should talk about that. And a big fan of actual play tabletop. Just told us before we went live, uses Roll20, which I am... I'm not adept at using. I've used it as a player. When M is not playing or prepping for D&D, painting, world building, which we're going to talk about, being out in nature, which we should definitely talk about, or rewatching Dimension 20, which we won't talk about for the time. I have nothing to talk about with that, so I hear it's very popular. I've not checked it out.
I've never listened to a single episode of it either. But yeah, hey, thanks for being here, buddy.
Welcome, M.
Hello.
Now, for the next hour, you're going to tell us all about Dimension 20.
I could do it.
No,
easily. No, I will not at all.
We'll have you back for that one. All right, we start with we have a few questions we ask everyone. We're going to start with Holy's got a question for you.
Yes, I do. And I will do my weekly preface of there is no right or wrong answer to this question. That's not, no, there's no right or wrong answer to this question. Okay, so my official reporter notepad here. If you had a choice between 2 superpowers, being invisible or flying, which would you choose and why?
Flying. It's not even a question for me. I mean, I have the social anxiety of understanding invisibility would be awful nice in a lot of situations, but the act of being able to soar through the air and to not like have to drive places would be wonderful.
You win, Jason.
I think
you win this
tied.
Week.
Honestly, I think we're tied. I've won for this week. I've
win this week.
Yeah, to me it's very simple, and for all the reasons that Em just pointed out. Em, you are a D&D mostly player?
Yes, I've done is it Kids on Broomsticks? Also, but mainly D&D.
Okay. So what is the coolest monster in the monster manual?
That's hard. I do use a lot of homebrew. So thinking of the actual monsters. Now
are you reskin and modify something else?
Yes. Yeah. I do that a lot, but I also do take them from the internet. If like I was doing one set in like a haunted library and I got somebody had created these librarians that were just like these badass kind of like Silent Hill looking terrors that could cast silence and things like that. But I would say, I guess I really love, I don't know how it's like pronounced technically, but I always just say quarry, the Quory. There's like a hashlock quarry and stuff. They're basically just like nightmares incarnate. They got a lot of spells. They got a lot of manipulative things taking over people. I like the dark dreams is definitely one of my themes in my campaigns.
Yeah, awesome. I'll have to check that one out. So you said homebrew.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you're a world builder. So let's start with your 30-second elevator speech on your approach to building a world. What are your like, you know, I'm going to build my own world because this.
I love thinking about, I have like a background in sociology, and so I love thinking about societies and just like kind of the logic of, if this were true, then why would it be true, and what does that mean about like the geography of your space. And it just like takes off from a single idea. It usually comes with like a theme. Like my last world is because I was thinking of how many campaigns are evil versus good, and I was like, well, what if it was a chaotic versus law campaign, and like there was an age of order years past that's been like destroyed by the gods of chaos. So it was like that starts it, and then it's like, okay, and the coastal people will be like this.
It sounds very familiar to me. Have you read Prisoners of Geography by Tim Marshall?
I have not, but now I want to write that down.
So, Prisoners of Geography, he's got a few. The Power of Geography, and there's a few of these. In fact, he released a follow up this year. But essentially, the premise is it tries to define at a sociological level why different regions have maybe entirely different worldviews, and how much geography plays into that. So I don't want to. We're not going to get political on on the show, um, but I cannot recommend it highly enough. I mean, just the history of Russia, for example, and why it feels the way that it feels, tying that to the fact that there really are very little natural defenses geographically between Western Europe and Moscow. It's a fascinating thing. So, Prisoners of Geography is highly recommended. Definitely check it out. It's very readable too. It's I was a sociology undergrad. I wound up in tech, but economics and sociology are my jam. So my world building comes from exactly that. So I built a map based on the economics and the sociology. So I'm trying to represent um, those forces, and then the map comes from those economic forces, which drive the motivations of the different regions.
Yeah.
So I'm with you entirely. Holy, you have a different. You have a. I'm not going to say whimsical, but you have a very interesting way that you build worlds. Talk about that.
I do. Um, I actually start with a list of words. Kind of like flashcards of words, right? And I put them like a theme of words. And I use that to kind of build the story. And I build NPCs first before I build anything else. And then I flesh society around the NPCs. I don't usually dabble in the politics side of the world building, but I do hit social topics, which you've played in my campaigns. I hit them a little differently, and I bring them into a different sort of viewpoint. I like to use things that are pop culture also in world building, simply because I feel like people equate more to things that they understand or they can connect with. So I use some of that reskinned and rebranded in my campaigns as well. So I build more around my NPCs and my creatures before, I think about the geographical layout and any of the socioeconomics or anything like that. I'm not a DM that really uses much money. It's not a thing, right? Like I'll toss my players money every 6 weeks and say, yeah, you have this large sum of money, because I don't dungeon delve. So mine does come also from, I guess, like an economical standpoint. I tend to have them have like some shop or something that belongs to them that is consistently earning income while they're out adventuring, saving the fucking world, because that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I like that. It's a way to focus them on the story and the challenges versus
loot versus the loot. Yes,
I like how you do that a lot. For me, I built my world really with I started with a triangle, and that triangle was industry, nature, and humanity, and the different inherent conflicts between the three. And if you look at my map, it at first glance it wouldn't look like that at all, but the deeper you get into it, the more that is just that iron triangle
correct.
is definitely there. So Em, tell us more about, give us some examples of how you approach that.
Well, totally. And your triangle kind of goes along perfectly with the world. Yeah, my main world that I created is Wildlands, and that is like the idea that there was Age of Order, and that meant that like gods of order ruled, and they like it kind of goes it's as if what we were talking about before about the different landscapes affecting the people, it kind of divorces that because they create these like highways that are perfectly perpendicular across the whole world and like make it like completely orderly, like push back nature. And then a cataclysm happens. It's now like 2,000 years later, and like chaos reigns and nature reigns. And because like overgrown ruins, overgrown cities, I love that idea of just like nature having taken things back. And then the logic too of just like, what would these people be like that survived a cataclysm where like 90% of your population is gone? 2,000 years later, where would you be at that point?
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think you and I philosophically have very similar approaches, and maybe it's the sociology aspect of that. I also were covering that ancient, was it wisdom? Did it collapse under its own decisions? Do we want that back, or do we want, it's like the Planet of the Apes, right? You get to that end point and you see the Statue of Liberty and you realize the folly of man. So
yeah,
I think there's so much to play with there. Now, so Holy said she starts with NPCs. How about your NPCs? Are they avatars for those forces, or do you come up with characters and really create them?
I mostly come up with characters, and I come up with characters like a lot on the fly of like either during the session or like the week or two before a session. And I weirdly often start with Hero Forge, with just like messing around with what they'll look like, thinking about what like role I need them to play, that I need like I'm gonna need someone that tells these guys information in some way. So how do I make this character?
Right.
Yeah, but I try to then connect them to like big ideas that I've been having. If the PCs, of course, want to interact. If they don't, then all the world building just goes on to another character later.
No. We don't say that.
Yes. Yes, everything is always planned out, and it's in concrete, and I never change it on the fly.
No, I am definitely all about if you come up with a cool idea and the characters want to go in an open world, sometimes they're going to make a completely different decision. You put that idea in your pocket, and maybe they come back to it when they're 5 levels higher. So you're not going to use the exact same stats or but the motivations are reusable and those kind of things. Yeah,
And sorry.
No, go ahead.
Just a lot of my like big. I realize the bigger NPCs, the ones that deal with the themes, they're often I take from my players' backstories. So I like to really their backstories are like vital to the world. These are important characters, and so if they happen to some of my players have written like 10-page backstories of their characters, it's like I will take those. Those will for sure be important people with interesting philosophies about the world.
Yeah, that's great. I tend to I write my my major NPCs based on an emotion, and then I throw that emotion into Google Translate, and I play around with different languages until that emotion just sounds like a interesting person, and then I go from there. Honestly,
That's genius. I'm definitely going to use that.
Especially when you have to come up with a lot of them, because you don't know which ones the players are going to attach themselves to. So you might have to come up with a bunch of throwaways. You don't want to force people on the players. If they don't find it interesting, then you don't want to force them into it. You know.
Yeah.
So sometimes they become obsessed with a character that you now have to write a lot more about.
Or they decide to adopt them and bring them in their party, and they're a constant NPC.
I also think, and I've said it before, but anchoring that NPC in an emotion or a perspective makes it so much easier to inhabit them if they go back to that NPC and you don't have a bunch of time to prepare. You've got like that anchoring emotion that you can just channel and improvise with. So I just think it's a bit of a device. It's a bit of a crutch, but I do think it helps you not have to write 10 pages for an NPC that might never get used. So.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, I think I do very similar, except for with the philosophy element of like that way I can always, if they're gonna ask something, it's like, well, this is how this person views the world, so I can have a pretty good idea of how they would view that thing. Because sometimes my players ask for things that I just have no idea how it got into their head, so it's always gonna be on the fly.
Yeah, it's a lot more improvisation than I think players think, especially players that haven't been DMs, right? So we try really hard to make it look like we had our shit together and we prepared, but you know.
I always have my shit together and prepare. Thank you.
I'm sorry, me too. Yeah,
I have trouble not like breaking the illusion too. Like if a session's done, I want to be like, yeah, that part when they're like, oh my god, I absolutely love that. I want to be like, yeah, that was just improv. That was just out of thin air. Did not plan that at all. But
that's what I mean. DMs are players too. Like
yeah,
we're here to have fun. It is a lot more work. It's a different type of work to be a DM. You do have to juggle a lot more things. And you but that's when you get to play, right? Really, when you're rolling with it, when you're yes ending and you're letting them paint you into plot loose ends that you're going to have to spend all week figuring out how to maybe tie that together for them. That's what makes it fun. It feels like a high wire act sometimes, and that's what is really fun about it. I completely improvised the other night. Imps as somehow being in hell, being really into like hell's version of PBS Kids. So they're into Helmo
and Harmy
and friends. And Clifford the Big Red Hellhound, those things are fun. You don't walk in thinking about that usually, but when it works, it's magic.
Yeah, it was like
So
Huli was saying too, that like it's cultural touchstones. Like if you can bring in a character that you know your players and you know they're gonna know, it just adds a little bit of fun and does make it easier to improv too if you already know what the character is kind of gonna be like.
yeah, and honestly, that came from a callback from another campaign where they got their first kill, and I had to think of some like last words of the imp as it's dying. So I did a callback from another campaign, which made me think, oh well, this is a evil little child in hell. So therefore, he wants to go home to mom and watch Elmo. So so all right, back to world building. Um, I think this is a big topic because players don't like to feel railroaded. They do like prepared DMs, and homebrew campaigns are typically sort of sandboxy open worlds. So how do you do? Do you do like a rolling wave preparation where you sort of stay just ahead of them, maybe a week or two in advance, where they give you feedback on what you what they think they're going to try to do, and then you prepare that? Or do you sort of have like dungeons and keeps and castles all sort of figured out on that map, no matter where they go? How do you do that?
So I do a bit of both. I definitely, most of my planning is done 2 or 3 weeks ahead of where they are before the last session. But I also have, each character has big backstory hooks in the world that I've like brought up pretty often. So if they ever are like, I really need to go do this thing now, it's like, okay, we can go there.
Yeah.
I also have 3 major like cities in my world that each relate to their backstories in different ways. And I think what naturally makes it work well is that my world is very big and it takes a long time to travel, and there's not a ton of settlements. So I have like, they have now told me for sure they're going to go to Concordia. I have a decent amount of time now. This is going to take them a lot of sessions to get there, and in that time I can work it out.
Yep. That's good. That's good. Holy, how about you with that? You have pretty discreet um, settings, I would say, right?
Mm-hmm. So when I write my campaigns in the initial world building, I tend to write them in outline. So I will put together this sort of like skeleton framework for things that are for certain going to be in those places. And then, like, you're playing on Wednesday. So, I didn't know where you guys were going to go in advance because you hadn't really said it. So I have like a few things that are prepared if you decide to go there when I'm not ready, but then now I know I have time to prepare. But like in my games that are like Monday night, it's a little more linear as they are in a place that isn't they don't have the ability to travel like that yet. So it's a little bit different. So my Wednesday campaign has it's very quote unquote video gamey because it's got that Kingdom Hearts element to it. So it's got the map of different worlds. So like if you were to play Neverwinter, it's got all 30 maps open at one time. That's really how Key works, but not all of my stuff is like that. So my planning just depends on in which game style I'm in. So like my Tuesday game it's a 2-part campaign. The over arc of the game is the dual worlds. Like that's how it is. Like, the Feywild side and the real world side. You've played in that for a little bit. Kind of how that is. So all of this stuff now, the Feywild side is a lot more linear because the way that it's broke up is there's really only one way to travel from each to the next. So you kind of like you see the map and you go through all of that, and then I know like I have that whole place prepared because this is the only place in that area you can get to until you complete the final step in this map. Because you're 9 times out of 10 players are never going to immediately figure out the final step in the very beginning. So they weren't negating all of that. So I just prepare that chunk, sort of like a module, right? Like I build them in modules and then we run them through however many weeks that it takes you to finish that module.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So, do you have a predefined number of sessions when you start a campaign? You sort of, do you know? We haven't touched on level progression yet. That's a topic for another day. But do you sort of have a do you know sort of how many sessions you expect a campaign to run?
I use a 0 session, and I'm very like explicit with my players of like how serious do you want to be about this, like, and how long do you want it to run? And luckily most of my players are like forever maybe. And so my main campaign that I do, and any ones that I'm just doing at home for fun, it's like this could go on forever if we wanted to, or maybe it'll only get up to level 8 and it will feel complete, whatever works. For the campaign I'm going to do for you guys, and probably the ones in the future if I do, I want to do like a set number of episodes, because I think they're very different, the two types of campaigns. That if you have a long way to go, you have to build a pretty good world that's going to survive and you're going to be able to remember things. If you're doing like a 10 episode thing, it also has to be like you have to get all your information out there, you have to bake the story and have it like come to a conclusion. But oftentimes those conclusions could be more explosive and like world changing because you're done, you'll be done.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I went into campaign we ended in January, and I mapped it out, and it was 70 sessions was the goal, and that was going to bring people from level 1 to level 20. We made it 58 to 59. And it started out very much like the open world, go wherever you want. There was a point around session close to 50 where we had I had to start thinking about that end game, how to bring it all together. And at that point, it very much became more like a defined, like you're saying, like a defined set of how do we've got so many loose ends. You're going to have an opportunity, but the clock is now on to tie up those loose ends, and I have to make it all make sense. And that was definitely a mental pivot that you have to make.
Yeah.
Now, loose ends. So do you sort of know going in how it all makes sense? Or, because I'll tell you one thing I do, Holy knows this, I give myself as long as possible. I create ambiguity especially about NPCs, and I give myself as long as possible before I have to make a decision on whether that is the BBEG or someone that really is there to help. How about you?
Yes, yeah, definitely. There's definitely a lot of ambiguity, and it is very based on my players. So it's like if they as I said, most of my big plot hooks, big story ideas are based on their backstories. And if they never choose to like explore that, that means that for sure is not going to be, the BBEG.
Right.
But it means that it's like, oh, I love it when your players are just like, I really hate this person. And you're like, I didn't mean for you to, and I don't know why you hate them, but I'm going to go with this. I'm glad that you had this instinctual reaction. let's see what we could do down the road with them.
Well, that's kind of
I
how you
think
do it too, Jason. That's like you too, right? Like you'll throw an NPC at us, and then you pretty much leave it up to us to decide whether it's somebody we think is interesting or not. And if it's not, then we basically never see them again. And if it is, then you start kind of listening to how we pitch that person. Like if we're looking at them as an evil person, like Vanka for sure, right? Like Vanka's a great example for that because a majority of everybody was like, she's evil, she's evil, she's evil. But then you had some people that are like, wait a minute, she has layers, like ogres and onions here. There's more to it. There's more to it. And like she's much deeper. And then you started actually fleshing more and more of that out with a couple of different ones, I feel like.
No, definitely. I think for me, being Gen X, I like subverting assumptions a lot. So I don't want it to be as simple as, so you make your decision and it's like, yes. And also, like you said, the onion, the first two for that campaign 6 years ago, the first note I wrote, the two words were banalia, which essentially comes from the banality of evil. Banalia is the name of the world. Onion. Those were the two words that started the whole thing. So it looks on the surface like one thing, but then you dig a little deeper.
Yeah, and you're just peeling back layers and layers and layers.
Each layer, yes, just brings it a different perspective. So then you throw entropy into it and it becomes a mess. So and build a mess. Like if you're going to do, let's say you're going to do a 12 session or a 10 session campaign arc, build a complete disaster for the first 4 and then let's see how we pull this off.
I love that, like trusting yourself, trusting that your future self will be able to figure out some cool things to do with this. That's the improv too, of like you can world build for a long time and it's not going to, and like if you can't improv while you're DMing, it doesn't really matter all that much,
right?
Yeah, no plan escapes the enemy.
Yeah, I agree. And if you're not doing that, then you're essentially railroading your party, right? You're telling them a story and making them roll dice, and that's not what we want. We want 5 or 6 brains to be actively telling a story together, and one person has to sort of represent everyone and everything other than the party. But it's those brains that are all, including the DM and the players, telling the story together. So the DM has more responsibility, but they can be wrong more often.
Yeah.
Right? The DM can fail every time. The party can't fail that often, so they have to be right more often. The DM has more latitude, but they have to do a lot more things.
Yeah.
All right. Any other final thoughts on world building?
Just that I think my main approach is really just based on players. Yeah, it's what they are interested in, and luckily I think when you really get to know your players and if they have the same interests as you, it meshes so well. Like I have built libraries in my world. There's a whole city and civilization that is built around kind of just libraries and the concept of like creating knowledge and sharing it. And luckily 2 of my players just happened to be, I met these people online, librarians at different points in their lives, just like me. And so it becomes this thing of like, oh yes, we all have this together and I can build out from that. Yeah.
I had an automaton in the library in my campaign, and his name was Dewey. And he would get you any book you wanted.
Yes, I have a little Arcanotech helper robot that is built to like go and get books from high shelves.
I just think he should be named Dewey. That's all.
Yes, lovely.
Okay, all right. Let's move on. So, I think you and I share a lot of philosophical similarities in how we approach that. So it's great to have you on Doors and Hooligans. Your show starts on Sunday,
The 19th.
Sunday the 19th. I think we have a little bit of teaser, do we? Fully?
Oh, that's lovely. I love that.
That is our parting gift. I think Lala did that video.
Yep.
And that is something we did. All of our guests get a video for them. So
and you're fancy and get to get yours on our website. Yours will be on the website.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
That is awesome.
June 19th. And that is 3 p.m. Central. Is that correct?
I think it's 6 p.m. Central.
6.
I could be wrong.
6 p.m. 6.
You got the primetime slot. All right.
Yep. We do have another campaign launch that day at 3 p.m. Central. So that's what you're thinking of. There's 2 going live that day.
I know, the primetime slot. That's good. All right. Excited for it. Yeah, that sounds like exactly the kind of campaign we want. All right. Let's get to we have 2 more questions left.
Yep.
We're well on time. I am a big believer in the Wonder Years. We talk about it a lot, but I believe that the person that we are between the age of 9 and 12 is our essential self. That is before life can smack us in the face, and we can often spend a lot of time sort of trying to recapture that person we are in our Wonder Years. So, M, who were you at age 12, and what do you do to try to get back to that person?
I think I love that the like 9 to 12. I was a kid who was very like creative and able to like entertain myself for hours doing lots of random things, which was good because I was also heavily bullied as a kid. So it was good that I could at least have fun. I loved my summer vacations. I hated my school years. But I try to get back to that, just like creativity for its own sake, constantly just like writing songs and painting things and just doing things because that's what felt very natural, and not even thinking of sharing it or like giving it to anyone. So I try to get back into that headspace of not thinking about others, just thinking about that like joy that comes with creating things.
Yeah. So you're a musician?
Not any. No, that was when I was a kid. I would write songs. Now I just like to sing along. I'm very big into karaoke and things like that.
Oh, okay. So, Shanae, our first guest, very similar into karaoke, and sounds very similar. So, that's great. I had no artistic ability at age 12 whatsoever.
Oh, I was not good at any of the things that I did. I've never been someone who's been like people have been like, that's really good. It's been like, cool. Just do your own thing.
Aren't you?
Yeah.
Enjoying yourself. Yeah, no, that's great. That's awesome.
And that's kind of it too. Like, I think I just stopped doing anything creative because I had told myself, like, well, you can't draw. You're not good at it, so you should just stop trying. And so in the last like 5 years, I've been like, I need to just try all the stuff that I decided at 13 I was never going to be able to do.
Yeah, exactly. Because we get one of these lives, and if we enjoyed it, then who cares if anybody else enjoyed it? But
Yeah.
and the 10,000 hours, I believe in the 10,000 hours. So I'm a firm believer in anybody who's great at anything was once terrible at that same thing. So there's really no way around. There's no way around it. I'm not a big believer in the just virtuoso. It can happen for some people. I do believe in talent. I have a friend who is, you know, uh, quite quite well known in the music industry who does not believe in talent. He believes only in practice.
Mm.
And I think talent is a thing, but yeah, I don't think those early times, especially at that age, you should try everything and don't be afraid of it not being great initially, because it's really the only way to become great.
Yeah. I think that's why I love DMing, because it is such a creative pursuit, and it's
Mhm.
also like usually when you're starting out with your friends in a very safe environment that's just designed to be fun,
Yeah.
because it is a thing where it's like you just have to throw yourself in. Like there's no like practice DMing.
Really. No, there really isn't. It is a different thing from being a player for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Holy, you got the next question.
I do. What is your favorite house rule?
Ooh. Oh. That's interesting. Well, there's some house rules that I think are integral. Like I always do that. Like there are narrative nat 20s and ones. They're not just for combat. Just because I feel like it makes a fun story for my players. But I think something that I do that my players are always like very interested and always like at the end of the session, like, oh, that was fun, is that I like to use maps and Roll20 to do stealth missions a lot. And instead of like maps are only like a third of the time about combat in my games. So it is this thing of as they move on the map, they can move half their movement and they have to make a stealth check every time. And so it's this like game between the enemies doing perception checks and them doing stealth checks to see if they can make it, and often they can't, and it's very fun.
Are we stealthing?
Are we sneaking?
Yes.
Gosh. Yeah.
My Wednesday character is a -1 stealth and has disadvantage, and rolled a 0 3 weeks in a row.
Oh, that is
In fact, my Tuesday character was pretty bad at stealth as well, and I don't ever tell my
yeah.
roll. I just have I just do
A
something
quip.
very
Yeah, you have a quip.
very obvious that I did not make my roll. So stealth is fun for sure.
yeah.
Now, do you have does your party know that kind of stuff? So do you tend to attract rogues and skills people more than combat people?
No, not really. I mean, I emphasize before I even get started with my players that it's like this is going to be very role play. Like combat will happen. Like usually it's like a 1 out of every 3 sessions there will be a combat. And so they know that they're going into that it's like build rich characters that have a lot of skills. But weirdly, none of in all the campaigns I've done in this world, none of them have decided to be rogues, which is a very interesting like choice, especially when it's like, okay, how does a party break into a place and steal something when they don't have a rogue? It's turned some good stories.
Holy, do you have a house rule on your mind tonight?
A new one.
Yeah.
I really should think of some new ones. I think that I'm really gonna start pressuring the audience again to use their channel points because I like the chaos that comes from that. I don't have a bunch of different kind of rules. You know, you've played with me, you know. But there's some stuff that I added in channel points on our Twitch that I think I really would like to see the audience use more so that way I could use them in the game. Like the one that's like sing for it. So you had a really good reason of why you wanted to do this thing, and you had a really good plan of how you were going to do this thing, but the dice said that you absolutely couldn't do this thing. But maybe if you sing me a song, the song of your people, you could still do that thing. And I think that's something that I find entertaining.
I love that.
I think the one that comes to mind for me this week is make it make sense. You know, make it make sense.
Yeah.
You don't tell me it's on your character sheet and you can put this combo together. Like, explain to me how that actually fits where we're at right now in the situation. Because I want them to be immersed. I really like the theater of the mind, so I want to keep people in character. I prefer people not break character and invest themselves in that imaginary world that we're in, especially for the shorter sessions, right? Let's just lock in, stay together, stay in the same mindset for a couple of hours. All right. What did we miss, Holy?
Trevor Project.
Okay. Let's talk about it.
Let's do
getting
it.
Close.
It is. It is getting close. What's the date today? Today is the 2nd. So we have 9 more days. If this is going to let me share the image, because sometimes StreamYard hates my guts and won't share stuff. Why you do this? Is it going to show? Oh, we're going to spin. That's cool. All right. Well, anyway, Trevor Project, right?
Send it to me and I'll throw it up.
All right.
Send me the latest version of it.
I do have the newer version. We did update it, so. I got Lizzo stuck in my head today. I must have known we was going to be hanging out today, Jason, because I got Lizzo in my head.
Humans great till they gotta be great.
There you go. All right, so Heroes and Hooligans, in conjunction with some of our friends in the TTRPG community, have come together to raise funds for the Trevor Project. We will be doing 2 extended play one-shots, one on the 11th and one on the 18th, to continue to raise funds to be able to finally send our donations in at the end of June. We'll be playing at 2 p.m. Central Time on the 11th until we finish, and also the same on the 18th, it's the week after, 2 p.m. Central until we get done. I will be DMing on the 11th. Jason will be DMing on the 18th the following week. My players are currently in their character creation process, and we are playing a game called Thirsty Sword Lesbians. It is put together by Gay Spaceship Games. They are an indie games company, queer owned, so it is perfect for the theme of the month, since we are officially in Pride Month now. Woohoo to that. So that being said, the donation phase that we're in right now is the character building. These players that are playing in my game really need your help to build their characters, because if you don't help them, then they get to be naked in the middle of a dungeon with a dagger, and that's all they've got. No other fun stuff. So their aesthetics, their magic items, their playbook moves, their stat rolls, all of that is dependent on how much work they do out in the community to raise money and raise funds for all that fun and fancy stuff. I will drop a link for that Trevor Project link for the main one. The best part about the main link, right, is any money that comes into the main link goes to the BBEGs and killing the players. That's my favorite part. Wow. Yeah, that's gonna go in the pot.
That's the best part.
That's for me as the DM. Yeah, I'm the most excited about that part.
I personally root for the players, but okay.
I mean, usually that's my MO, but this time it's a little different. We're playing Monster Queers of Castle Gayspo.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be lit, and I'm excited about it. Tell us.
There's something wonderful about charities being like completely random and like very high stakes. I love charity games.
Yeah, that's the point of it. That's why I mean, right? Like to go towards killing players, because I also have things put together for in-game donations for when people are donating while we're playing, that are table tipping things. It's a one-time game, and that's how it's going to be. Very high stakes, very every decision is going to be like a flip of a coin, but it's a weighted coin. Like it's going to be which way is this going to go, and that's why I make the joke about killing them. I'm not going to kill them, but the NPCs might. I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm not gonna hurt you.
I didn't say I wouldn't kill you.
I wouldn't kill you. But that's your game.
Yeah, on the 18th, we're gonna do something that. So if you feel like that is a little too brutal, and you would like something that is completely customized and catered to you, there is a session for you on June 18th. June 18th, we are going to, for our donators, people who directly donate, you're going to have the opportunity to join the party. And I've got an entire online e-form survey where you're going to get to vote with your party mates. And as a party, you're going to get to decide everything from what level you want to play. What theme, what tone? Do you want it to be dark? Do you want it to be funny? Do you want it to be silly? Do you want it to be vicious? Do you want dragons or do you want dragons in it? And we're gonna take as much time as you need. We're gonna throw out, and Holy's doing this as well. We're gonna throw out the whole concept of 90 minutes to 2 hours.
Correct.
Attention span of the audience. It's all about the players. So it is going to be a full adventure arc tailored to exactly what they want to experience, something they've never done before. They're going to get to play things they've never been through before and always wanted to. They want to fight a Tarrasque, we'll fight a Tarrasque. They want to go to the astral plane, we'll do that. Whatever it is, and we don't know yet. So there's still time to get in on this. Get the donations in. We are so close to our second goal, our stretch goal. Get donations in. Get into the party, and you'll get a chance to really have something that is fully customized for you and your party mates. And we will go, if it's 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours. We're going to go to give you truly an epic experience. It's all about you, the players, you, the people that have donated to a cause that could not be more important in our view. This is just, this is the first of our charity projects, not the last. We feel really strongly about this one because it's life or death stakes for some of our most vulnerable people in our world. So we truly believe in it. We're super excited that it lines up with Pride Month. So yeah, get the donations in, get in the party. I will DM it. I promise you, I will do everything in my power. I will pull out all the stops to make it special for you, the players, the people that have donated to this worthy cause. Hopefully the audience likes it, but they're secondary. It's really about you, the players. So get in it, even if you just want to go in and create chaos and experience something that you've never experienced. Go throw $100 at this worthy cause, and go in and try to make my life. Try to make me do cartwheels to entertain you. I will promise you, I will entertain you, the players, on June 18th.
Yes. For those of you who are not familiar with the Trevor Project is an organization that does suicide and crisis prevention services for trans and non-binary youth. And given the current state of fuckery in the world right now, we are wanting to now and forever protect our children at all costs. So it is fundamentally important, I believe, to at least share the organization and get the knowledge that it exists out there, even if you don't have the means to donate, because we do understand that the world sucks. But even if you could just share, let people know that this exists, you could just one 2-minute post could save somebody's life. So that's it. That's all I got for you today.
Yeah, get someone to sponsor you, and you can be the player. And I said it last week. I'll say it again. All we want is for people to survive long enough to find their people. And there's a point in life where all of us don't have, we don't feel like we've found our people. And literally, it's that simple. We just want everyone to hang in and survive long enough to find their people, because they're out there. And Heroes and Hooligans strives to be a community where people can find their people.
Yes.
But so I think it's a fantastic first cause for us. But I'm excited for the next ones that we have coming up after.
Correct. We have some pretty good stuff lined up, I think. Being all over the world, like we have people on our team from all over the world that really believe strongly in the same thing. So it's not geographical. It's humanity. It's humane. It's what's the right thing to do for the world, and that's what we're going to do. Mm-hmm. We're going to remain inclusive. We're going to remain inclusive. We're going to remain diverse, and we're going to continuously always embrace that chaos and be heroes and hooligans the way that we are.
Yeah, and it is Pride Month, so this is our first episode during Pride Month. If you are not in the LGBTQ plus community, do yourself a favor. Go to a parade this month. Go to your local Pride parade. See the joy, see the love, see the acceptance, see the many different joyful expressions and versions of humanity. I promise there's something unique about you that even if you don't fall into this area and you don't feel like you're part of this tribe, this is literally the rainbow. This is everyone. So you'll never see how much you are part of a very diverse human race, like you will going to a Pride parade. I promise you, it's not what you think. If you're not in this community, it's a place where people can just share humanity with each other and be themselves, and everyone be accepted. So do yourself a favor if you're not part of this community. And honestly, it's for yourself. Go there and see the joy and love.
And the love, because love is love.
Peace and love. I'm trying to do it. I'm trying to do a joke and it's not going to work. Somehow we are an hour in. We're going to lock it down. We're going to close it up. We are going to get out of here next week. House rules. Holy. Thank you. See you next week.
See you next week.